Hey, this is Kori Raishon, and I'm here with Dr. G. Love, also known as Geryll Robinson.
I'll say I'm an intergalactic being embodying a two-legged humanoid form for this incarnation.
I like that. Okay.
Yeah.
And what else do you, if you were to give yourself a few titles, America loves titles, or people love titles, what titles do you hold?
Yeah, I'm an indigenous technologies practitioner, which is commonly known as shamanism. I practice the work of the ancestors. My apprenticeship work, I've been apprenticing for over 50 technologies, primarily out of Peru, the Americas up here, Turtle Island, and then at this time I'm apprenticing in the Dagomba tradition with IIKDS, which is out of North Ghana, the tradition. I also am a Reiki practitioner and teacher and a diviner. I am currently most excited about divination, and I'm doing divination work in the community with this Dagomba technology, which is really quite profound and is bringing me as the diviner as well as the seekers who are coming into whole new relationships with reality. Each divination is really shifting the templates in our heads when we do it, because really allowing our ancestral spirits, our ancient ancestral spirits that can be traced all the way back to Kemet and beyond, frankly, to speak to us and to communicate with us through the divination process, through dreams, and through the waking life, and to really realize that and learn how to track that changes everything. So I would say that's the main stuff I do. I'm also a doctor of naturopathy, which is a natural medicine doctor with a focus on connective tissue and nutrition. So all-around healer, also an artist, playwright, performer, and general goddess at large.
I think a lot of people are waking up to, there's something more than this. Would you kind of say also it's a seeking of wisdom that the ancestors are wisdom guides, in a sense, through that technology that you're speaking of?
I would say yes. The ancestors are wisdom guides, but really it's our own internal wisdom that's being reawakened. There is so much. Even the scientists, the modern-day westernized sciences, are aware that most of the DNA and RNA appears to be dormant, or they call it junk. Most of the consciousness and the brain and the gray matter and so forth, the neurologic tissue in the brain is what they feel untapped. And we can't just rest at that, we just have all this because the Creator just put this in there because we needed filler in our head. I mean, obviously there's a lot that we don't understand yet based on our evolution as scientists. So when you go back to the indigenous technologies, they're like, we'll tell you what some of that stuff is. We know. I said, oh, great. So when we do this kind of work, what we're doing is awakening what we perceived of as dormant parts of our spirit and our mind and our consciousness. So we're actually remembering who we are. We're remembering our connection to all that is and ever was.
How did we lose this technology? Obviously, it was something that was prevalent way back in the day. And obviously it has been passed down. But I know you speak about colonialism a lot. Is that how we lost a lot of our indigenous ways of living?
Yeah, I would say that's been the institution that's gone for the global. There's been just sort of a global standardization of spiritual practice. But honestly, does it end at Europe? No. That's certainly this era. For this era, this entire 2,500-year era that we're moving out of, the age of Pisces, we're moving out of and into the age of Aquarius, that's one way of putting it, has been centered, it appears to have been centered in Europe. But when you trace back, you're going to trace your way back to the Vatican, which has almost all of the records of the indigenous technologies that were decimated. They were more absorbed than they were decimated. So you'd be surprised that our spiritual leaders have a lot more information about this than the average one of us.
Right.
So either way, if you trace it back, you're going to go straight from Rome to Greece, and straight from Greece to Egypt, and straight from Egypt to Kemet, and then beyond. Now we're looking at Mesopotamia, we're looking at Abyssinia, we're going back to Babylon, we're going back in time. There's a general thought that it all traces back to Kemet, and that the monotheistic perspective, as far as we know, first arose in ancient Egypt, and that sort of standardization of practice where we began to, where governments or leaders began to realize that you could have a better control over your populace if everybody's on the same page spiritually. If everybody's home doing their own individual divination work and talking to their own gods of their ancestors and talking to the plants and talking to interdimensional nature spirits that live in, let's say, simultaneous dimensions, then there's only so much control the leader of a government can have when people are being pretty much internally guided. Like, I have an internal compass. Each family, each village, each community is operating with an internal compass. In order to have a more powerful empire, it's helpful to have everybody working on an external compass, which is held by the leader. This is a simplification of the story, but this is sort of where there was some systematic removal of these practices, and it was done with a lot of trauma and with a lot of pain, so that begins to create dissociation. So we begin to have bad associations with what people call sometimes paganism or worshiping false idols or these sort of things. But if you look back at the history of it, it was designed, somebody said, let's just shut this thing down. So we're going to go out there, cause a lot of mayhem, burn a few people, tar and feather a few people, just carry on and do a witch hunt until people begin to dissociate and forget, bury.
I still think that the deeper knowledge is still on the down low. I would like to know your opinion about that.
Absolutely. I mean, once we start going into this is deep. This is deep like the ocean, or deep like outer space, deep like the universe. We can only go so far at this time with our ability to perceive what's out there. So there's layers. If we think about the universe, sure, we can all look at the solar system. We can even see some of the planets with our naked eye. So some people's spiritual work is valid, but it's at the level of, let's say, the solar system. It hasn't moved into any of the complications of the galaxy or of the universe at large, or it's not really incorporating the quantum nature that is going to bring us into time and space folding and multiple dimensions. So there's variations on the levels at which people are doing this, and also the template that people are using to do it. A lot of us are still defaulting at the basic linear sort of psychotherapeutic concept of like, okay, we have a spiritual awakening, and then we go and try and fix stuff because we have a pathology mind frame around here. We all want to fix something. And it's really about embracing rather than fixing. Even the most troubling parts of us are guides. If something is nagging us, like really bothering us, every morning you wake up with anxiety, it is because something has happened. There's something happening in the dream state that you are perhaps being asked to become aware of. Or there's something happening in your awakening state that every time you wake up, you're like, whew, I have to deal with this, and you're not. And it might be something that's so buried that it's hard to look for. So instead of going away from the anxiety, if we go into it as a messenger, we may uncover some amazing truths. We may leave the solar system and go out into the galaxy. We may find uncharted lands and pieces of information inside of our own personal geography that something in us knew was there but that we never really accessed. So going deeper in is really the work we're doing.
Well, I know you're a part of this group of three, or you're one of the three, and you guys are calling yourself Black Witch Chronicles.
Zoe Flowers.
Who are you?
Zoe Flowers, Keisha Harris, and Dr. G. Love. We are 3 spirit-guided sisters who have come together to open a portal of transmission and reflection for those who are called to work with us.
Okay.
We are, we're on a move. If we want to break it down into basic language, it's activism. It's spiritual activism. What we're doing is we're literally activating people's psyches. We're doing what I talked about earlier, reflecting a pathway and then showing some ways to interface with the pathway. And, our viewers have really been letting us know that it's working. People are just so wonderful, so appreciative, and feel so empowered to do their own work. Some people have been sort of hiding behind closed doors and not sure, follow their calling to open up and be a more spirit-guided person or a more ancestrally guided person. And for some people, just by watching one episode of Black Witch Chronicles, that's all they needed. They're like, that's it, I'm in.
What are some of the things that you guys talk about on the show?
Let's see. We talk about gender and sexuality. We talk about the ancestors. We talk about herbs. We talk a lot about protection. We talk a lot about dealing with mental and emotional health, because mental and emotional health is going to guide us straight to the spirit work. We talk about politics and how it relates to us, and whatever's up, because we channel, so we sort of are open to allowing the spirits to guide us.
Totally sounds great. Black Witch Chronicles is a talk show that's online. People can come every full moon, right? That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
Do they go into Google Plus, or where can they also find you?
People can find us on Google Plus. People can also find, because that's where it streams through Hangouts when we do our Hangout. People can always go to our Facebook page. I would subscribe to the Black Witch Chronicles YouTube page so that you don't have to stay up late with us or stay home. You can go out and party and come home, and there'll be a little notification that we dropped an episode, and you can check it out in the morning.
So where can people find you, Dr. G. Love?
I'm findable. My website is 5 Directions. Well, that's new. I used to not be findable.
Right.
Undercover sister coming out. 5 Directions Wellness, FIVE. So www.5directionswellness.com is my website. Through there you'll find my Gmail, Facebook. I'm G Love, spelled differently than regular letter G. I'm spelled G-E-E, Love for Facebook. But the G-E-E is only for Facebook. It is Dr. G Love. And Dr. letter G, L-O-V-E, 1. So at Dr. G Love 1 is my Twitter handle. And from there you should be able to hunt me down and find me.
Okay,
for
fantastic.
positive things.
Fantastic. Okay, right, exactly. So this was great. There's going to be more. I know I just hit the surface with you, but definitely looking forward. I thank you for this, and we'll definitely be checking out the Black Witch Chronicles.
Thank you, Kori.
You got it.